Hey guys, this is the horoscope for Libra for the Taurus season starting on the 20th of April until the 20th of May. So first let's say what we are going to cover in this video because the month is going to be very intense with lots of astrological events. And we are going to talk about the Sun in Taurus and Mercury going back to Aries. Then we have Mars in Gemini. Then we have a new moon in Taurus, Venus moving to Aries, Mercury going direct, full moon in Scorpio Taurus, the North Node coming to Leo and the South Node to Aquarius, and Mercury going back to Taurus. So you can see that there are lots of astrological events and probably there will be a very big shift for all of us. But let's talk about how it will influence you personally. So the most important, of course, the transit sun. On the 20th of April, we have the transit sun entering Taurus, which is your 8th house. So during this whole period, the transit sun is in your 8th house, Libra. And we should say that generally that's not an easy period of the year. 8th house is one of the most complicated houses related with the energy of other people, related in some way with our unconscious, related with lots of deep emotions and secret experiences that might not be visible on the outside, but they're still strongly influencing us. 8th house is also the house of critical situations, and that's why it's considered to be more difficult. So it is possible that during this month you may have some kind of issues to handle with. Emotionally, you might be coming through some kind of ups and downs, and generally you may feel like things are a little bit more complicated for you, because 8th house, as we said, is the house related with resources and energy of other people. So you may feel that in some way you depend on others. You depend on their financial support or in some other kind of support. Emotionally, you might be more influenced. And very often this might be a little bit unconscious because 8th house is also related with the invisible world. So you might be feeling some things that might be difficult to explain, or you may not be aware, where the problem is coming from, but it's just a more emotional period. On the other hand, the positive side of 8th house is that this transit is great for some kind of investments, for making some kind of taking some financial decisions or attracting financial support and investments from other people. And on the same day, actually on the 20th of April, we have also the transit Mercury, which is retrograde, going back to Aries and your 7th house. So Mercury retrograde is generally requires from us to be more careful with all kind of information, how we communicate with others, what kind of decisions we are taking. And in general, this is not a positive time for starting something totally new. But in your case, it mostly will affect the area of relationships, 7th house. So we can say that generally this is not a positive time for starting new relationships or partnerships. It doesn't necessarily need to be a romantic relationship. It can be just a partnership, but try to avoid that. If you haven't worked with that person before, try to avoid signing contracts and generally to have some kind of important negotiations. If you have already worked with that person or communicated with him, or he has been some kind of partner for you, then you can restart this relationship, you can restart this partnership, because Mercury retrograde is a positive transit for restarting old projects or partnerships in your case. So that can be the positive side of Mercury retrograde. But in general, try to avoiding new beginnings and projects including other people, which is related with your 7th house. Next, we have on the 22nd of April the transit Mars moving to Gemini, which for you will be in your 9th house. So here is Mars entering Gemini and your 9th house. And the transits of Mars last around 2 months. Mars stays in one sign for 2 months, so that's a very long period. And in your case, it affects mostly your goals, how, your perspective about the future, what you would like to achieve. So that's a very positive transit, to take concrete actions in order to achieve your goals. Because Mars is the planet related with our efforts and, some kind, even our physical efforts that we are putting into something. So that's a great time to, really put a lot of energy in order to achieve your social and all kind of goals for the future. 9th house is related with education, especially with high education. So this can be a very positive transit to put a lot of efforts to learn something or to start a new education. Of course, with Mars, we always need to be prepared that there can be some kind of tension, that we might be too impulsive. We may, it may require a lot of physical effort to accomplish our goals, but if that's what you need to, to put a lot of effort to, pass an exam or start a new education or, just find the information that can expand your worldview or perspective about a concrete topic that you are interested in, that's a great transit. 9th house is related with travelings, especially with, traveling abroad to distant places. So from one side, this transit may accentuate this topic, so you may really need to go to that trip or, business trip. At the same time, you should be aware that there might be some kind of challenges for you there. For example, you may have a lot of work, but if you are planning some kind of active trip where, for example, you want to, walk through the city during the whole day and, get really tired of that, then Mars in 9th house is actually a beneficial transit for you. But for long-term goals and, putting real efforts and starting to accomplish them, Mars in 9th house is actually a great transit. Next, we have on the 26th of April, we have new moon in Taurus. So we already said that the sun is in Taurus, so and your 8th house, so that's why you have also the new moon in your 8th house. And we already discussed the topics related with this house, and actually with the new moon there, it's a transit that can actually activate and help you to start something in this area. So for example, you can make an investment, or you can make take a really important financial decision and take, put the beginning of a project that will help you to grow your financial income, especially if it's something coming from other people. So if you want to attract investors or people to support you financially, or even your partner to support you financially, then this new moon actually can help you to grow that, to expand that. Of course, like with every other new moon, we should be aware that we need to wait around 2 days after the new moon so that the moon is visible, and after that is a great time, to start your projects and take the concrete actions. 8th house is also related with the occult, with spirituality. So if you want to start practicing something, or some kind of energetic practices, this new moon actually can help you to do that. So for example, starting your yoga practices or something similar to that can be very beneficial and can help you to manage with this energy, which sometimes may not be very easy. So next we have Venus moving to Aries and your 7th house, which will happen on the 28th of April. Venus enters your 7th house. So Venus in 7th house actually It's a very positive transit because Venus is the traditional ruler of this house, which means that there is really a harmony between the energy of the planet and the sign. And we should remember that Venus is the ruler of your own sign, so it's really important for you. And of course, seventh house is about relationships, about communications with others, your partners, the audience that you are, performing in front of, in case that you are, have such kind of performances. And Venus actually can help you to look more attractive to other people, to attract their attention, to make them like you, but in a really natural and soft way. So yeah, for all kind of partnerships and relationships, this transit can activate them. And it's important that previously we had Venus retrograde in Aries in your seventh house during the last around 1 month and a half. So now that Venus is moving through the same degrees, through the same sign and house in your horoscope, but this time it's moving direct, you may actually have the opportunity to fix something that didn't work very well for you during the Venus retrograde period. And actually things can become smoother for you, and you may find the solutions that you have been searching for. And even the situation should become even more positive after the 3rd of May, when we have already the transit Mercury going direct in your 7th house in Aries. Because you see, we had two planets, both Venus and Mercury, retrograde in Aries, which for you was your 7th house. So it's really possible that relationships, communications with others, the audience that you are performing in front of, and generally communication with others may not have been really fluent for you during the past around 1 month and a half or 2 months. So now that we have both of these planets, Venus and Mercury, moving direct through the same degrees, through the same sign and house in your horoscope, you may have the opportunity to fix the problems, to find the solutions, and generally the area of relationships should improve for you, especially after the 3rd of May. So that's very good news. After that, so on the 10th of May, we have a full moon in Scorpio Taurus. So the sun is in Taurus in your 8th house, and the moon is in Scorpio in your 2nd house. So the most important, this axis is related with your resources and the energetical balance. So this topic is going to be the most important and will be activated from this full moon. And from one side, the full moon is the time when you can achieve visible results. You can materialize something in this area, which means that your finances can improve, or you can attract support from other people, or you can earn like a new income of money. That's one of the opportunities. The other side of the full moon is that it activates two houses which are opposing each other. So with every opposition there is some kind of conflict, because these impulses are both pulling you in the opposite directions. So it means that, for example, consciously you may try, because the sun in 8th house, the sun is related with our conscious mind, what we are aware of. So consciously you may try, for example, to attract support from others. You may want to count more on them financially and even energetically and emotionally. And on the other hand, unconsciously you may try to keep some kind of independence. You may try to keep something for yourself, or to be more counting on your own resources. And the moon represents more our unconscious state of mind. So that's the time when you can realize, for example, you can become aware of some kind of patterns related with your attitude towards finances, towards money, and you can set free from that. You can clear that in order to achieve success and to improve generally your financial situation. And we should remember that 8th house and 2nd house are also related with our health. So that's a positive nation if you would like to make some kind of change related with your health, like starting a new regime, especially starting a new diet, and just trying to improve your energetical balance. So next we have something really important, and that's related actually with our karma, and it's the transit of the North Node into Leo. So on the 9th of May, we have the transit node moving to Leo, which means that the opposite node, which is the South Node, will enter Aquarius and your 5th house. So the North Node moves to your 11th house because the nodes are moving retrograde and back, which means backwards, and the South Node moves to your 5th house. So this is a transit that lasts for 1 year and a half, which means that that's a long period, and that's why the changes are really big and important for our life in general. And the North Node has an influence which is very similar to Jupiter. It brings new opportunities, expansion, growth, and there is we need to be concentrated on that because we can gain in this area. On the other hand, the South Node represents it has a similar influence to Saturn, so it brings some kind of restrictions. We can feel more stuck in this area, and we shouldn't be focused on that. Generally, we need to separate with something in this area of our life. So in your horoscope, the North Node transiting your 11th house suggests that this 1 year and a half will be very positive for all kinds of social activities, for becoming more communicative with others. You may feel the desire to become part of a collective of people, of groups of people, people that have similar interests to yours, people who share your ideals and perspective, about the world, about the future. So that's a great transit, for establishing new friendships and for all kinds of communications and social activities. It means that you need to learn to be a team player, not to be so much focused on your personal desires, but instead try to do something for society, for others, and with others. And the South Node transiting your 5th house suggests that you shouldn't be so focused on your personal desires. You should try, to neglect them in some way. You shouldn't be so much focused on romantic relationships as well. This might be a little bit more complicated area for you. And 5th house is related also with entertainments and hobbies, so probably you shouldn't be also so much concentrated on that. So the right direction for you is social activities and communication with others, which is 11th house. And finally, on the 16th of May, we have the transit Mercury moving to Taurus. Mercury moves to Taurus and your 8th house. So that's a positive transit for taking decisions related with your finances. That's the material side of the transit related with taking decisions to make some kind of investments, to make some kind of changes. For example, you may decide to change your bank, or make another type of change related with your finances. And more invisible side of this transit is related with our psychological state. So 8th house is, as we said, very deep, very introverted. So you may find yourself being more introverted and unwilling so much to communicate with others, but that's a natural state. So don't feel so frustrated from that. Just try to get in harmony with this energy. So try to analyze more things. On the other hand, 8th house and Mercury there are great for, understanding things and the roots of something, to understand it, the essence of something. So for example, for science, for some kind of scientific projects, that this Mercury in 8th house can actually be a very supportive transit for you. And in general, you may notice that you look a little bit more serious on life and life topics, and that's just, a normal state. So, as you can see, we have lots of astrological events, very interesting month ahead, and thank you very much for watching this video, and I will wait for you next month again.